All right, welcome back to Sharing the Stoke. I'm sitting here with Mr. Matt Miller. How are you, bud?
Yeah, good. I actually didn't know we were doing a podcast.
Oh, yeah, that's what we're doing. Where are we?
We're in Skardu, Pakistan, flying back to Islamabad.
Nice. What have you been up to?
We've been riding the sickest trails
Yeah?
on Earth. Yeah.
Yeah? What makes them so good?
They're just massive, insane, huge, everywhere.
Everything huge.
It's just everything you can imagine, just bigger and harder.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so on this little episode, we're talking about our trip. It's not quite over yet, but we've pretty much finished the riding portion. Riding in Pakistan. Been on a pretty big adventure, and we didn't really know what to expect to start with. So we're just going to talk about what our expectations might have been, what actually happened, and how we're leaving, how we feel when we're leaving this amazing place. So for me, I know that my expectations, I just really didn't know what to expect. I knew that there was going to be some big country, steep country, massive cultural differences, and I didn't really know how good the riding would be. I knew that we'd find a couple of gems, but didn't really know what to expect. Let's rewind a little bit further. So how long have you known that you're coming on this trip?
I think you put the idea in my head maybe 6 months ago.
Yeah.
And I said no.
Yeah.
The first time you asked, I thought it was a good idea, and then I said, got a lot going on.
Yeah.
Don't want to leave for 3 weeks. And then I thought about it, decided you can't miss a trip like this.
Because it was one of your buddies, who was like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
You should just go.
Yeah.
Just
like,
say yes.
You're an idiot. You need to go on a trip like this.
Yeah. Yeah, nice. Because when I was originally talking with Mike about it, Mike helped organise this whole thing. I was like, Pakistan's too steep. That was my biggest fear, is that everything was going to be too big, too steep. And so it'd be actually pretty hard to find anything rideable.
Well, there was a bit of that.
Oh, yeah. And we found a bit of that. Yeah. Quite a lot of bluffed out stuff,
Yeah. Bluffs everywhere.
Bluffs everywhere. In fact, Mike actually had to get rescued from some bluffs one evening.
Mike found a bluff, yeah.
He got a bit bluffed out with a little bit of a drone incident. Cool. And so we've been here for 2 weeks now, just over. What were your first impressions when we arrived in Islamabad?
Well, it's so different than New Zealand.
Mm-hmm.
I think, I've traveled a lot of developing countries, but it's been a while. So I was like, whoa, okay. That's what it's like. All right, settle in. Everything's going to be fine. Everyone's getting on good. So that was my first impression, yeah.
As in everyone's getting along good, like the crew? Because there's 6 of us.
Oh, well, more like when you get here, it looks like chaos.
Yeah.
But everyone, it's almost like organized chaos where everyone's getting done what they need to do and no one's getting hurt along the way.
I think, that was my first impression, like driving from the airport to the hotel. Yeah. I was like, holy, there is so much going on, yet it all works.
Yeah.
The best example of organized chaos I've seen is driving on Pakistani roads.
That was intense. Like some of the near misses, we had a lot of near misses driving on the roads, but it never felt like a near miss at home where a near miss feels like death. Here, a near miss is just
a couple of inches between one corner of a vehicle and the next corner of a vehicle and the oncoming vehicle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those guys have good spatial awareness.
Yeah, that was insane. That was first impression. Obviously, we have the heat, and then so that was really hard for us coming from winter. But then also we have the different soil conditions, which were super hard when it came to riding, and altitude, which
True that
was hard.
Yeah. So we only spent one night in Islamabad, and then we flew straight up to Skardu, which is a pretty beautiful flight. Like you're flying over Himalayas, Karakoram, and Hindu Kush ranges, which have some of the highest mountains in the world in them.
That flight was cool because it wasn't like you're just flying. You're like, oh, there's mountains. That's cool. There was actually someone on the flight working, saying what the hills were and how high they were. And,
like a full-on tourist experience.
Yeah, it was awesome. 45-minute flight. It was like $90, and we got a meal.
And interp along the way.
Yeah, it was one of the best flights I've ever had.
Yeah, and I was as excited when we hit the runway here in Skardu, got out of the plane, as when I landed my first time in Antarctica. Like full on sensory overload. The mountains,
Yeah.
the place is just so big.
Yeah, and there's mountains everywhere. Which is crazy. Like you see a mountain, and there's a bigger mountain behind it, and a bigger one behind that, and mountains as far as you can see.
Endless.
Yeah,
Truly is the roof of the world.
yeah,
Yeah. One thing that we didn't mention just before is when we arrived in Islamabad, we met one of our local guides. So we had two local guides with us. We had Hashim and Shibaz, and then we had two drivers as well with our vehicles.
Yeah.
But the drivers and Shibaz were waiting here in Skardu, and they actually, like, they softened the blow, I guess. Like we had someone to ask about things that might have been culturally sensitive, someone who could speak local language, but a lot of people actually speak English.
yeah. And we've heard that from other people too. Like one of the easy things about Pakistan is that so many people speak English, or at least understand what you're saying when you ask them a question.
Yeah, because there's so many different languages within Pakistan.
Yeah.
English is almost the common language.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like everyone speaks perfect conversational English, but there's a lot of you can get around pretty well just on English.
Yeah.
Made it easy. But also when you mentioned the guides and the driver, it would have been so hard without them. Just like navigating the roads. The roads were insane.
The roads were insane. I took a motorbike on my last day and just went up the valley, like the quiet direction, and it was only really near the end of the trip that I felt confident. Like you just got to go where you're going confidently, but be totally aware of what's going on around you. It was the same when you're walking, same when you're on your bike.
Yeah, but because also it's not just the people driving; it's the fact that the mountains are constantly falling onto the road.
Oh yeah,
So there's just slips everywhere, and it'll be like perfectly tar sealed, really windy, and maybe a little bit bumpy, and some small rocks everywhere. And then you come around the corner, and it's just like you're off roading.
Yeah,
because there's just scree. I don't know what it rocks. It's just rocks everywhere.
yeah. The road is actually like it's gone, and they've created a new little drive around.
Yeah. Also, the guides made it much easier for us to find accommodation because there's accommodation everywhere, but we'd be like, we don't really like this hotel. Can you find us a better one? And they know exactly where to go and they can take us there instead of us like spending all day kind of looking for accommodation and wasting our time.
Yeah,
because we're so tired.
Yeah,
after all our missions, that if we had to do that as well, man, it would have been hard.
Yeah. How did you find the accommodation?
Good. I mean, some of it was not so good. And we didn't always have hot water, which, I guess we're a bit spoiled.
And
always
it's
wanting hot water.
generally around high 20s, 30 degrees anyway.
Yes.
So a cold shower was kind of refreshing.
I hate cold showers, though. That's the thing. So, yeah, I just wanted a hot shower. But, the beds were fine. And, yeah, it was...
Basic, but good.
Yeah. But we never paid more than, like, 100 New Zealand dollars for accommodation.
Nah, and that was a pretty ritzy place.
Yeah, like... Flash, super flash.
Yeah, that one spot in Minipin on the Hunza Valley that we stayed, and that was after we stayed at somewhere that was pretty gross in Gilgit. Yeah, so out of all of the nights, we only stayed at one place that was gross, apart from the shepherd's hut.
Yeah.
That was a little bit dirty, but it was actually quite comfortable for an emergency shelter.
Yeah.
Should we talk about the food? How was the food, Matt?
Oh yeah.
How were your chicken skewers? Did you get any yet?
No. I still have not gotten chicken skewers.
We saw some chicken skewers cooked on the side of the road on the first night, and we're still a bit tentative, I think, of the food. And so, is that why you didn't get any?
I don't know. Well, there's good food everywhere.
So much of it.
There's always like real dope curries, which I'm a big fan of, and you eat it with a local bread, flatbread
called chapati.
Yeah, and you can't go wrong. And we're always so full from that.
Yeah.
That sometimes chicken skewers is the last thing we want.
Yeah. Well, our main food really was chapati, dal, and what was the vegetables called?
It's like a mixed veggie curry.
Started with S, but yeah, just some veggies cooked deliciously.
Yeah.
And then Coke, so much Coke.
We drank, because we can't drink tap water. Well, maybe we could, but
but it's you never know.
Yeah, so we drink
whether
only
it's come from a spring or
water.
not. Yeah.
So then you get bored of that. And you're like, well, I want like something with some flavor. And they don't have no sugar Coke, so you go for the full sugar. And man, we've just had so much sugar.
And I'm a big fan of how Coke kills everything in your gut. So
Probably
if there
not.
was, I did pretty well with the old food poisoning thing. That was my biggest fear, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, was coming here and just getting sick and then being so sick that I missed out on stuff.
Yeah.
But I did get sick. I had one day where I just couldn't trust a fart.
Yeah.
Woke up in the morning, boom. And then it was all the way until the following morning, just, constant.
Yeah.
But it was a full flush. I felt pretty good after that.
Yeah.
Got rinsed.
Yeah. No energy, but it's all good.
But didn't miss out on anything, which is the main thing.
Yeah.
Probably because we were partway through a trip.
Yeah.
That was day 3.
Mine on day like 2 at the top of the Hunza, or at the top of the Dosai Plateau. That was my rough night. I think we all had a rough night. Yeah. With the altitude.
Yeah, so when we arrived in Skardu, talking more about our itinerary, we got straight into it, like built the bikes up, went straight out into find some riding, found some ridges, found some terrain. It was pretty chunky right off the get-go, pretty loose. It's pretty sandy here in Skardu.
Yeah.
So anything lower down is sandy.
Yeah.
Or anything on ridges is quite sandy.
Yeah, it's like just a sandy place.
Yeah.
But as soon as you get out of town a little bit, it's less sandy.
Yeah, or into the valleys.
Yeah.
The valleys were money. That was where it was all at.
Yeah. But that first day was cool because we got to like see what the dirt was like, see what the hills were like, feel the altitude for the first time. And then we also rode through some villages and everyone was pretty cool about that.
Yeah.
Just exploring.
Yeah, and having our having Shibas, he would talk, or actually the first people we came across were stoked with what we were doing.
Yeah.
And they were very stoked that we were visiting, and they were very welcoming for us to come and check out the village, which was cool. Like people were literally running with us, showing us where to go.
We asked the kid or the guy, and like, whose land is this that we're riding on?
Yeah.
As we're riding down, he said, it's my land. Like, is this okay? Is it okay if we ride here? Yeah, it's fine. And he was stoked about it.
Yeah. And then we're pretty much, we got up real early the next morning, tried to do a little hiker bike up through Carpocho Fort, got skunked. Turns out it was closed, hard to get into a fort, it's locked. Watched a mint sunrise over the Indus River, and then we headed straight up to 4,000 meters.
Yeah, that same day.
Yeah.
I think we did it. We should have taken it a little easier because we went from sea level at home, 2,000 meters in Skardu, straight to 4,000, and we were all cooked that night because the altitude that's pretty high.
Yeah, the Dosai Plateau, second highest plateau in the world after the Tibetan Plateau. And it was a rough night. We all got AMS, which is acute mountain sickness. So we all had this throbbing headache. Rosie was vomiting. A couple of people had dysentery.
Yeah.
It was full on. And so all we wanted to do was go down. And the next day, that's what we did, but we didn't quite get as far down as we were hoping to do.
Yeah, well, we had a 60K mission planned.
40 to 60 Ks.
Yeah, we didn't know how long.
Yeah.
So we climbed to the top to 4,500 meters.
Yeah, to go over this pass.
And then we decided to ride down. As soon as we hit the trail, like, sweet, all downhill from here, we're going to be fine, feel better as we go, as we have more oxygen pressure. But it was hard.
Yeah, so that trip, we went down the Sugar Lock Valley we were aiming for a town called Sok, or a village called Sok, which is right near Skardu again. We thought we'd be able to do it in a day, so we didn't take overnight stuff. We took a few emergency items, which were clutch.
Yeah.
That definitely got us through. But we only got about halfway down the valley that first day because it was slow going. Everyone was like, it's hard to ride with a headache down rough terrain. It felt like someone hitting you with a hammer every time you went over a bump, dunk, dunk, dunk in the head. It was not a nice feeling. Looking back on it, views were amazing.
Yep.
But yeah, we had to make the call at about 5 p.m. when we still had about an hour of light left to bail, stop, set up camp. And there's these cool shepherds villages where shepherds take their stock in the summertime or springtime to graze them. And it was the perfect accommodation.
I wouldn't even call it a village. I think it's hard to imagine these buildings that we're staying in. It's literally just rocks stacked as walls.
Yeah, check out
a room.
Check out there's the vlog that I did. So go onto the YouTube channel and look at the playlist. And there's a playlist called Pakistan, and you'll see exactly what's going on there.
It's intense.
It was pretty full on.
Yeah.
I've overnighted before unintentionally, and so because of the scope, the place, how long it might be, the mere fact that we had no information, I had a sleeping bag. We all had extra warm clothes because when we started it was really cold, so we decided just to take everything with us.
Puffer, rain jacket.
Yeah, we had about 3 emergency blankets within the group. We had extra snacks. We had water filters. Like, we were pretty well prepared. We had a GPS device, but we didn't need it. It wasn't an emergency. We just had to stay out. We made the call before it became an emergency.
Yeah, it could have ended as an emergency.
Yeah.
I think if we didn't stop at that shepherd's hut, because we had been seeing like a few huts here and there, and the last one we stopped at was the last one for
Ages.
several hours.
Yeah.
So it's good we stopped then, and yeah, that was good. It was a good experience.
And so it was like, imagine 6 people lined up on a couple of emergency blankets spread on the ground. I had a sleeping bag, so had that spread out over the top of us. Had another emergency blanket spread over the top of the others. Matt was sleeping next to a fire. The fire was like, I had a love-hate relationship with the fire because it stank. Like, it felt like I was just
chimney.
Yeah, I was just chewing on durries all night, and I don't smoke, so it wasn't a nice feeling. But what happened to your clothes, Matt?
Well, we ended up making the fire a little big, and because it was really cold.
The old 3 a.m. freak out.
Yeah, and we were still at headaches from the altitude and things, so we probably weren't thinking clearly. And I was laying too close to the fire, and my jacket started on fire, which was like, I didn't really think much of it at the time. I just like ran outside and put it out and went back to sleep. But that could have been really bad, you know? I could have been burnt, and then we would have really had an emergency.
Then we would have had to hit the button.
Yeah.
Because it was about a patch about a foot, a circle just over a foot.
Yeah, it totally burnt out through both
in
jackets.
diameter.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that happened. We also that evening went across the valley, across the river. There was another shepherd's hut with a dairy farmer.
Yeah.
And we got to try some grubby butter.
Yeah, he gave us some butter
and some
straight
tea
from his fingers.
Yeah, which is pretty nice. And I reckon that little knob of butter was what got me through. Good energy. I took it pretty happily.
Yeah.
I was hoping I could get some more, but I was a bit shy to ask.
Yeah, we should have bought some. He was selling a kg of butter for 200 rupees.
Yeah, which is nothing.
It's like $1.
$1, yeah. Awesome. And then the next day was, everyone felt a lot better in the morning. Still headaches, but we started making our way, and we started to actually ride a lot more as well. So there was more consistent riding. It was quite flowy, kind of like stock trails, until we got deeper down the valley, and it became these savage traverses. Like, not savages in like super technical, but savages and super exposed. Like the most exposed riding I've ever done.
Like one wrong move and you're dead.
You could die. Yeah.
Because you would fall a long way. There's no grip. And the trail wasn't benched either, because it was like kind of walking trail, but not a lot of traffic. And then maybe the stock used it. So it was super narrow. And for me, it was benched the wrong way. So I would have been much more comfortable if it was benched the other way. But yeah.
It's pretty funny, like looking at my tires after that. The right-hand side, all those knobs, that was when they started to show tearing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was crazy. But we did get out. Like, that ended up being another huge day, because one thing we didn't account for is how harsh the road would be. And that road was, man, just so rocky, and like just this moon dust on top, hiding rocks. So it was, we dropped a lot of elevation in a short distance, but it was hard going. So if we would have done that at the end of day one, after 60 Ks, that would have been hard.
But we told the boys to not worry unless we weren't out by lunchtime.
Yeah.
And that's when we hit them.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Suffering from the dust.
I am. Yeah, nice. And then we went straight from there to Gilgit.
Yeah.
On the move.
Yeah, there wasn't much time to relax. I think we just packed everything up in the trucks.
We stopped for some showers.
Yeah.
Carried on.
Yeah, that's intense, actually.
Yeah.
Looking back, like, That was actually full on.
Yep. And then, yeah, went to Gilgit, spent the night there. And then that was our grossest accommodation.
Yeah.
It was unfortunate.
Yeah. I didn't really mind it because it was an upgrade from the shepherd's hut, and we were so tired. But then I think we upgraded our accommodation the night after that. We probably had a
Deluxe.
day off. Got the dope one, and then it was up to Rakaposhi.
Rakaposhi Base Camp. How sick was that?
Oh man, best trail.
Yeah.
Probably of my life.
I think so too. It just had so much variety. The views were insane. Yeah.
I think when we started that day, I was really suffering from the heat for some reason. I couldn't digest my food. It was just kind of like sitting in my upper gut. It was 30 degrees. So we were just absolutely cooking. We started the day late.
Like 10:30 was when we started walking.
Yeah. It was just
straight into
so
these
hot.
steep switchbacks. Yuck.
It was, for the first 2 hours, it was everything I could do to not stop. Just to keep going was everything I could do. And it was hot and steep, but everyone else seemed, to be kind of chugging along.
Yeah.
I thought I'd have to go home. I didn't know what was wrong. But then what's cool about these really established hikes, is that there's all these stops along the way where they have food and drink available.
Yeah.
And it was our first chance seeing one of these established walks, only 4 or 5 days in. But we got a Coke at the first camp, and everything changed for me, and we all, it cooled down a little bit, and we've just kept charging up
that
the base
next
camp.
cola, lifesaver. And the tomorrow tea.
Yeah, we had a tea and a cold Coke. I felt 100% myself. So, yeah.
From a planning perspective, I'd been doing heaps of research into this trip, and so we tried to go big real early, because we're like, let's explore. But then I always had in my back pocket that we had these trips that were like relatively established trekking routes, and they looked really good.
Yeah.
And so my fear was that they'd be a bit mellow or too gnarly, but Rakaposhi was so sick.
Yeah, it was almost like a perfect gradient.
Yeah.
The whole, it wasn't rideable up, which is probably what you want, right? Because then it's going to be steeper on the way down. But on the way down, it was just epic. Well, so when we got to the top, though, it started to get real rocky, chunky, rain rut single track in a way. But then when we crested this ridge, there was this insane glacier that we could see as far as the eye could see. And then a massive mountain, Rakaposhi Mountain.
What was it? 7,788 meters.
Yeah, something like that.
Just shy of 8,000. Or it's the other one, 8,877. But I think it's the 7,788. Yeah.
That was cool to see, and it made all that 6-hour walk carrying our bikes feel worth it.
Yeah, we had a moment, eh? I remember. I saw the video. It's like, oh yeah, that's right. Me and you sitting there being like, what a day.
Yeah.
Amazing day. And we just actually worked our asses off.
Yeah.
And we're just sitting there so stoked.
Yeah. That was a great feeling. And I think what made it even better is we knew that we'd be able to ride everything on the way down.
Yeah.
It was chunky. Some parts were real hard and pretty steep. But we had a nice camp ready for us. We stayed real warm. They cooked us a meal at base camp.
Yeah.
And the next day was fantastic.
Yeah, and it was all relatively affordable. 8,000 rupees total per person for a tent with mattress, sleeping bag, food, so dinner, breakfast, drinks, cola, water.
So that's 40 New Zealand dollars
Yeah.
for 6 people.
In this remote, not even a village. It's just some dudes up there in the camp, manning the camp. Yeah.
It's a big effort for them to get the food up there, because there's no roads that lead there, and it's a huge walk. So they'll use donkeys, or they'll carry big bags to transport all this food. So there's huge sleeping bags, all that stuff, tents, tons of tents up there. But then fresh cans of cola, and rice and dal and chicken.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. And then the next day, we cruised down. And what I liked about it is it wasn't relentless. So it went from kind of exposed to kind of steep to pretty fast and flowy to steep again, to kind of mellow and open and fast, to chunky and steep.
Yeah.
And then there was, at the bottom, you could take almost a road. It was like a 4x4 track. Or there were these offshoots of single track. And if you shifted a couple of rocks, there were the only times that we got off were on that last bit where there's like a little rock fall that had come across the track. And so you just walked over this jumble of rocks and then back on the bike.
Too.
Yeah, probably basketball plus size. Yeah.
I think if someone went up there and spent just a couple days
Yeah.
like tidying up the trail to make everything 100% rideable,
Yeah.
it would be like, well, because it would have been rideable, but these offshoots that we were riding, it's like no one actually uses them, so
Yeah.
they were pretty sketchy.
Yeah.
If we would have followed the main trail, that was 100% rideable.
Yeah.
So if someone spent some time on these cool offshoots, just like shifting some rocks, there's no dirt to add in between, but that'd be pretty sick.
Yeah.
And it would be steeper, harder. But by then, like, you've already descended like 2,000 meters, I think, or something like that.
Yeah, it's
1,500.
quite a lot, 1,500.
And your arms are so tired from taking a beating like higher up. For me, it was a lot like riding Whistler's Top of the World, where it's like real chunky up top, and then it mellow through the trees, some steep bits, and then super fast and up and down the bottom. It was a lot like that track.
Yeah. And then from there, we're all on a high. It was pretty cool to get that one under our belt. It's cool to ride something, be the first people to take bikes.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing. We're the first ones.
Same with the other one, probably. And we might have even be the last people that do that
No
track.
one's ever going to do
that route.
Yeah, Suffolk Valley, no.
Suffolk Valley. And then, we're back in Minipin. And then we headed up the Honza further to Pasu. And en route was where we learnt about getting bluffed out, where a drone was lost up just above the road, and a certain member got a little bluffed out going to hunt back that drone, and the rescue party had to be called.
Because one thing to remember about this trip that we've been doing is that we've had Adam and Mike, obviously you, Jeff, and I've taken a few photos, but the guys have been really documenting everything. So the drones are up, we're like riding sections, we're waiting, we're taking photos, because we really want to share this experience with everyone.
Yeah.
So they get the drone out a lot when the battery's not dead, and they got it out on the road, lost it, and that's when Mike got stuck, because you can get up these hills, which he did to get the drone, and then coming back down is so loose and shaly, everything's just falling apart. And yeah, hopefully that makes it into the
Yeah, so there will be an edit. Hopefully we do a little showing in Rotorua, maybe in Czech Republic, maybe all over the show. So watch the space for that one too. But myself, Matt and Rosie were unbeknown to this because none of us had working SIM cards over here, and we'd carried on to Pasu to find accommodation. And they were hours behind us. Yeah, and ruined. They were so tired from the stress and the ordeal.
They had to get the rescue. People in. Yeah, that sounded crazy. I'm glad I missed it.
Yeah,
we were warm, showered, and we ordered dinner for them. So
we were still providing value. We were still useful. And then in Pasu's an amazing place. There's the Pasu cones, which are just breathtaking, unlike any mountain range I've ever seen. And then there's a glacier right nearby, which is the Pasu Glacier. There's actually a few trails in that area. We didn't have time to explore many, but there's this one sick track which you drive up and you gain hundreds of meters of vert. And then we continued walking. We were going to walk just 20 minutes, but it ended up being like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, up to the main viewpoint over the glacier, where we then rode down. And that was epic. I liked that track. Matt didn't like that one so much.
It was my favorite, especially considering Rakaposhi, how awesome that was. Because this one had, like, riding from the top at the glacier viewpoint, there's massive shale. And that was a little bit scary. We had, Adam had a problem with his derailleur, which, we were on zero, so that was sweet. We didn't have any derailleur problems, but we fixed his, because everything's just shifting under you. And we got down, and I'd actually crashed a few times, bent my brake lever. I was just like, get me down. It was one of those days where I was like a little bit over it. Wasn't really able to enjoy the trek. But it was pretty cool because it's just a walking trail. It went all the way down the mountain.
All the way down to the road.
Yeah.
Like to the bottom of the road that we drove up.
Yeah. And it was an amazing view as well. I think for that one, that would make a really good day trip.
Yeah.
Just go back there if you have like a few hours to shuttle or whatever. You do it a few times.
Yeah.
And you don't walk all the way.
Yeah.
You just walk up to the 20 minutes.
Which is what we did the next morning. We went for a little sunrise mission because Rosie sat the day out before because she was cooked from Rakaposhi.
Yeah.
Yeah. We didn't really have any days off. It was sunrise.
Yeah.
Or overnight, sunrise. Yeah, full on. And then, so we did that little sunrise mish and then drove down the valley all the way to Fairy Meadows.
Fairy Meadows is super popular. Like,
Yeah.
if you search anything about hiking in Pakistan, you'll find Fairy Meadows.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the most popular places.
Yeah. And there's a little like tourist village 3/4 of the way up, would you say? Yeah, so it starts off with this gnarly Jeep ride. Like, it's actually the most impressive road I've ever seen, and it's the locals that are making them.
It's just
Yeah, it's just insane. It's only one Jeep wide, and you're hundreds and hundreds of meters above the valley, and it's near vertical to the base of the valley.
Yeah, it's almost undescribable. It's like coined as the world's second most dangerous road, and the way it's built up, it's literally a cliff, and they stack rocks to make a bench, like rocks sometimes 30 meters high.
Vertically. There ain't no slope on there. It's vertically.
So we had to hire 3 Jeeps to take our bikes up ourselves and the guide, because that would have been a hard push.
Yeah.
With bikes.
Yeah, it would have sucked.
It would have really sucked because it was 1,000 meters of elevation just with the Jeep part, and then we walked another 1,000 meters once we got to the Jeep stop. To the actual Fairy Meadows camp.
And it was steep. Like, we wouldn't have ridden up that. Not at that altitude. We would have been pushing. Yeah, it would have been a long walk. Yeah. And then, so yeah, we arrived. That was a big day. We arrived at night. Probably like 7 p.m. was at the top of the Jeep track, and they were actually repairing a slip.
Yeah.
And that's why we had to walk a little bit further. So they were repairing a slip. So we got to see the crew at work, and then we started walking. Good thing we had our Magic Shine lights.
Yeah.
Because it was very dark. And then we arrived up at the Fairy Meadows kind of village at 9:30 p.m.
Yeah, 9:30. They had hot water going for us. They had dinner going. They had a fire going.
Yeah, it was the epic welcome.
Yeah.
We had tea. Yeah, it was super sick. And yeah, we all had our own little huts.
Yeah, those huts were pretty cool. They were like also built on the side of a cliff.
Yeah.
But we had all the toilet showers inside huts. You even had a fireplace inside yours.
Yeah, which we cranked on the second night, which was quite nice. And the view outside off the balcony was of Nanga Parbat, which is another one of those 8,000 meter peaks.
I think it's the 8th highest.
Yeah, huge.
That was insane to look at, because also when we walked up, it was dark, almost a full moon, or like it was bright, but the way the moon reflected on the glacier was insane, just because you could just see it the whole night.
Yeah.
And
it was
so
almost
big.
a full moon too.
Yeah.
So the place was glowing.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah. And then so the next day we walked. So this Fairy Meadows trip turned into a 3-dayer. We decided to stay 2 nights up there, and we walked up to a Bayal camp, which is also coined the German lookout or something like that, but Eagle's Nest.
Yeah.
And that was interesting. Up there wasn't my favorite riding, but it was pretty good.
Yeah.
Maybe I was starting to feel a bit cooked by that stage.
I think all the riding up there was a lot like from like Bile Camp to Fairy Meadows was a lot like what we rode in Nanga Parbat.
Yeah.
I think, but we were just all kind of getting
Rakaposhi.
tired. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Rakaposhi. We were all getting a little bit tired. We got really annoyed because we thought we got ripped off buying our lunch.
Yeah.
So, like, the
it was the
vibe
most expensive lunch that we'd had.
Yeah.
15,000 rupees.
Yeah, so $75 ish in New Zealand. But I think maybe just the vibe wasn't the same. I think if we went back to that track and rode it again from Bile Camp to Fairy Meadows, I think we'd see it a little bit differently.
Yeah, because our expectations would already be set.
Yeah.
But hey, that's part of traveling is you kind of have to drop those expectations because you never really know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
Just going
Especially-
open-minded.
Because we also were the first ones to ride that.
Yeah.
So they had never seen bikes up there.
Yeah.
And it's not made for bikes.
A lot of people grabbed our bikes and just took them for,
Yeah.
like, tried to take them for a ride or tried to take them and seat us for tea or whatever.
Yeah.
Which
They were
no one
really
had done
excited.
anywhere else. Most other people would have a conversation first. So the vibe was quite different there.
Yeah. I think because they get so many tourists there.
Yeah.
That it feels a lot like a tourist.
Everyone's trying
Place.
to take their piece of the pie,
Yeah.
rather than put their best foot forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it a bad experience, but it was just totally different because everyone's super polite everywhere else in Pakistan.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that part just felt a little bit different because it felt like a normal place, I guess.
Yeah. And then from there we got back to the Jeep Road. Oh, we stayed another night and then we rode from Fairy Meadows down, got to the Jeep Road. It was extremely fast and just as sketchy, really. It was pretty scary. Like, you couldn't go too fast because if you did have a tumble, you could potentially fall off one of these cliffs, and there were cliffs everywhere.
Like actual death cliffs.
Yeah.
Actual death.
Yeah.
You would die.
You would die.
100%. And, the interesting thing was when we drove up, it felt really narrow because it was only the width of a Jeep. But I guess there was a few feet either side.
Mm.
So riding down, it actually felt like we were riding on a road. But the road was so chunky.
Yeah.
And like the rocks were moving. So if you go around a turn and the rock that you're on moves,
Yeah.
There's some serious consequence.
And super dusty, so if you were following someone and they went through a dust bowl, well, there'd be dust bowl spots. And so if they hit dust and blinded you, you just, like, you got to let off the brakes to some extent so the tires just roll. And it's terrifying.
Yes, it was scary, but definitely worth it.
Yeah. And then from there, we headed back to Skardu.
Yeah. In Skardu, we met a local mountain biker. Hasu. And that was cool because, firstly, he took us to dinner with all his friends, the other mountain bikers. That was an awesome cultural experience.
That was my favorite dinner.
Yeah. We had like deep fried trout, and he ate the whole thing, including the head. That was good. And we had mutton curry.
It's like a stone pot curry, eh?
Yeah.
Which is, it was the first time we did like legit local food.
Yeah. In someone's house.
Yeah.
That was cool. But he took us for a ride, and he'd been watching your YouTube stuff. And I think he maybe expected us to be able to ride like these insane stuff. So he took us to a place he'd never ridden. And there was no way we were going to be able to ride that.
No way.
We had to like cross it through a valley by a bluff, climb up another bluff to like this trail that we could see. And it looked pretty good, but there was no way we were going to.
Yeah, because that was across a gully, which was bluffed out as well. So that turned into an adventure again. Yeah. At the start of the day, I was like, how long's this ride? 2 hours. Oh, yeah, I reckon it's going to take us 6 hours. And it was pretty much 6 hours door to door. Yeah. That was crazy.
But we ended up turning around, and he asked a local if we could ride through, like, along their water race, where they kind of divert water from the springs at the top of the mountain back into the villages to irrigate their crops. And that's why it's so green, though. So he asked the local if we could ride along the water race. They were sweet with it, so we just followed it in through the village, and that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was epic. And then I just remembered that we forgot about Guppa Valley. So that was another day in Minipin, just before Rakaposhi. We went up, we got driven up a jeep track again through a village, and then there was a glacier up there, but we were all pretty tired still from our 2-day mission.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
And we went exploring through just back down the road, but there were like kids everywhere, just so stoked.
Thousands of kids. I forgot about that day, but that day was really cool.
Saw that old fort that was over 400 years old.
Yeah. That day would be another good just day mission because you shuttle up, because we drove all the way up to the top. We had some tea in someone's house. That was awesome. And then we rode through the village, and there's cool lines, like sometimes connecting one neighborhood to the other. Yeah, that was actually a great experience.
Yeah, that was sick. And like amazing cultural experience.
Yeah. Everyone was so happy to see us.
Yeah.
Because I think that was the day before we went to Fairy Meadows, and that's why it was such like a juxtaposition, like this great valley where everyone was so happy to see us. And like thousands of people were so happy seeing bikes there for the first time. To Ferry Meadows, we're like, they see tourists,
Yeah.
thousands of tourists, so a little bit different.
Yeah. And now, we're about to fly out. Oh, we did go to a little organic village though. That was just an off-the-record morning. Went out for breakfast.
Yeah.
There was another ride that Hasu recommended, but I don't know if you could really ride much. It was more of a walk than a bike. That's that was the only thing that I was like, probably could have left my bike at home for this one.
Yeah, maybe could have walked to that, which
Yeah.
would also have been really cool because it was, again, a super exposed track, really rocky, on cliff, with these gnarly bridges that we had to cross. But then when we got to the other side, there's just like 10 houses with 40, 50 people living there. They made us breakfast, gave us a tour of the village. That was epic.
Like the school and where all the stock were and all of the crops growing, spring.
Cool place.
Yeah, that was only the second time on the trip that I drank water straight from the source. Like there was a mountain stream or a couple of mountain streams on that Dosai Plateau trip, and then that spring. Everywhere else it was mineral water or filter.
Yeah, I think I didn't drink water straight. Not even there.
Yeah,
but that looked pretty good because
good.
They had trout living in their little hatchery that they had too.
Yeah.
So it had to be clean water.
Straight out of the ground. But yeah, so that's the real quick and dirty of the trip.
Yeah.
But if you do want to know more, you should follow these guys. Matt Miller or NTB PhD, there's a bunch of photos there, a couple of cool reels. Mike Dawson, Adam Stories, Rosie Clark, she didn't put many on. Me, New Zealand Mountain Biking, and
Jeff Carter
21. He was the photographer of the trip, really.
Some awesome photos.
He did take some awesome photos. Yeah. And then the YouTube, the vlog. I gave a vlog a go. Yeah.
Yeah, that was cool.
Pretty comprehensive.
People have been enjoying it. People all around Pakistan have been sharing your vlog.
Yeah.
And obviously mountain bikers have been loving it too. It's like you got the whole package, culture and adventure.
Yeah.
And riding. It's pretty good.
It's a good time. It's a good time. And so leaving Pakistan, what do you think of the place?
Pakistan's awesome. I think it's everything that we've heard about Pakistan is not true. Everyone's been awesome. Everyone's been super nice. They're so happy to have us here, and they want us to. They see us as ambassadors for the positivity that's everywhere in Pakistan.
Yeah.
And I feel a little bit responsible for that because we did have such a great time. Everything's been so great.
Yeah, and everyone's been so welcoming. Like I've never felt unsafe. Double negative.
Yeah.
I've always felt safe. Yeah. Which is really, really cool. There's a lot of places in the world that I've traveled and I have not felt safe.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But here I felt really, really safe.
Yeah. Cool. Like felt safe. Never saw anything bad happen to anyone.
Nah, and with that chaotic roads, like we've still got some driving to do, so I don't want to jinx us, but haven't seen any incidents.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good.
Crazy.
I'd come back in a heartbeat.
Yeah. I've already started thinking about planning my next trip.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I reckon this time of year was perfect.
Yeah. It was hot.
Apart from the dust, like some of the towns are pretty dusty, but other than that, amazing. Pretty consistent weather.
Yeah.
20 to 30 degrees every day. We got a couple of showers when we were up in the mountains once that lasted like 5 minutes apiece. Get like a little squall blow through. Nights got cooler, especially the higher we were. But two frosts. That was up in
right.
Dosai
Yeah.
early on in the trip. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah.
Well,
so
until the next trip.
But yeah, don't forget to check out those channels. I think, Matt, you're going to do a couple of videos as well on some of that physiological stuff.
Yeah.
About how altitude affects you, how to prepare for a trip like this, and braking on trails like this. So you had your brake case running.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. And yeah, keep posted for when the video comes out.
Yeah. Watch this space.
Watch this space. Cheers, Matt.
Yeah.